Thank you. What's the problem? But that just what the year ended.
Is this your file or my file? Okay.
Put your accounting hat on.
I'd say I got 2 RAM pages.
Right. Trying to make eye contact.
Yeah, that was last week, from last week, or last month.
Keith, are we good to go? Okay. Call this meeting of the Southeast Polk School Board to order. It's April 9th at 5:31 p.m. Lacey, could we get a roll call, please?
Chad.
Here.
Brett.
Here.
Tracy.
Here.
Bridget.
Here.
Grant.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Lori.
Here.
All right, we've got a quorum. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Chad.
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Tracy.
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Lori, would you like to do the mission and vision, please?
Yes. Southeast Polk will learn, lead, live. Success for college, career, and civic life. Engage all students in learning a challenging curriculum delivered through quality instruction.
Thank you, Lori. All right, on to public comments. We've got some special guests here. We'll start with our supervisor, Mark Holm.
Thank you, Chad. I know Julie's on her way. She just called running just a bit late, but thank you again for this opportunity tonight to come before you. My name is Mark Holm. I'm Polk County Supervisor for the area north of 163, including Altoona and Ankeny. I'm here tonight representing the Polk County Board of Supervisors and Prairie Meadows to present you with our annual Prairie Meadows proceeds check. I want to thank you guys for your service. Being an elected official, I understand what you do and all that you do to build our community. It's often a thankless job, and I wanted to be here tonight to say thank you for all that you do to make your district in central Iowa a good place to live. Tonight, I'm going to present you with a check for $116,353.79. Prairie Meadows and Polk County Board of Supervisors have developed a valuable relationship for revenue sharing from the operation of Prairie Meadows to be returned to the benefit of our community. Again, this year, Prairie Meadows and Polk County are donating 1% of those winnings. The gross receipts for the school districts based on per capita enrollment of students residing in Polk County. We are providing $1.3 million plus or minus to Polk County students. Tonight, we're pleased to present you for a check for $116,353.79 to Southeast Polk Community School District. These unrestricted funds can be used at your discretion, the district, to support your students, faculty, and staff to advance the education in our community. Since 2007, Prairie Meadows and Polk County have given back more than $21.6 million to the students of Polk County through this partnership. Prairie Meadows and Polk County are committed to supporting our education system and investing in tomorrow's leaders. So I'm happy to present you with an actual check here tonight, along with a faux check for a picture. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer to the best of my knowledge.
Oh, we just really appreciate it. We'll put every penny of that to good use. So
Yeah,
thank
I know.
you.
I tipped you off about the. So there was a little bit of an error this year, and we ordered our checks. We had a new assistant, and they ordered like a 6-foot one. And the last one I presented, I couldn't hardly fit in my check. So I told people that they'd been asking for larger checks, and I brought out this ginormous check as opposed to the dollar amount. So, but Julie, I didn't know if you had anything to say. I kind of already had covered the script, but.
We just, we love this partnership and beautiful building. I haven't had a chance to be in here, so I went to the wrong door, so.
Do you mind if we grab a quick picture?
Yeah, let's go for it. Jeannie, do you want us over this way?
Yep, you can.
Okay, so if we can move back at the podium, so we need to shift a little to your right, please. Thank you.
We're gonna miss the logo.
Oh, no, we've got it. Behind you, Mark. We're gonna do a couple of cameras, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and one more, and now. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Everybody smile one last time. There we go. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Great to see you. Great to see you. Great to see you.
Well, don't forget the smile.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. All right, moving right along. We have the Southeast Polk girls wrestling team here with us, and I don't know if you guys all want to come up, and Dwayne, I don't know if you have some words for us, or?
No, again, just had a great season. Thank you for your continued support.
On the microphone.
My voice doesn't carry loud enough.
New technology, you gotta.
Gotcha, okay. Yep. Yep, Dwayne Myers, head girls wrestling coach. Thank you for having us. Again, we had a great season this year. Ended up finishing third in the state, behind a couple of co-ops, which is an ongoing struggle for us, right? But yeah, ended up with a state champ, a state runner-up, a third place finisher, a fifth, and then an eighth place. So again, great season. Won a couple of big tournaments, one in Missouri, and one in Nebraska. So again, traveling outside of the state to get the toughest competition, and it shows on the mat when it comes tournament time. So all the girls come up that are here. We've actually got one competing in Washington right now for the World Team Trials.
Don't be shy.
So wishing Skylar good luck out there. She's probably going to start here in about 22 minutes. So, yeah.
Better get this moving then.
Yeah. I've already given her my scouting report, so she's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and line up. Thank you again.
Yeah, and congratulations on this season. I mean, every year this program gets bigger and better, so.
Yeah, we're really excited. We ended up having a little smaller high school team than we thought we might. But the middle school program absolutely just blew up. We had 47 girls on the roster. So again, the future looks bright going forward into the high school season. So really looking forward to the future. So thank you again.
Okay, stand here, and they'll come to you, and we'll grab a quick picture.
You want us back here, or?
Yes.
They're so
I don't know if
tall.
we'll be able to see you guys back there. So we might have to do a couple of rows. Shorter people in front. Okay, Lori, I can't see you. And,
No, you go ahead.
okay, so, oh, I can't remember your name, blonde with the, yes, thank you. Move maybe, or you go down a little bit. There we go. I just want to make sure I can see everybody's face. Okay, ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, here we go. One more. Everybody smile. 1, 2, 3, and one more just in case. Smile. There we go. Congratulations. Send it over here.
Did we get any other public comment cards? Okay. Well, let's keep rolling then. On to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Oh, we didn't know. Hold on a second. Did anybody want to submit a public comment card in the audience? No. Okay, onward.
Before we vote, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I would just like to say thank you for those that are leaving us, for your dedication and your time commitment to Southeast Polk. It's appreciated. And welcome to those joining us.
Okay. Did we get a second on that? Tracy, okay, thank you.
Okay. Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
All right, on to the old and new business, bid award. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Buchan?
Good evening, Board. With the bid openings for the general obligation debt today, we opened several different bids. Suzanne Gerlach is here with PFM to go through those bids with us.
Thank you, Kevin. Exciting news. I always love when I come see the big check. I need to get a big check for PFM because we're bringing over $51 million to the district tonight, so very exciting to move forward with projects. So our goal with a competitive sale is to receive 3 bids, and today we received 8 bids from over 55 different banks. Those 8 bids include 3 bidders that are brand new to the district and 1 bidder that is brand new to Iowa as far as my experience is this year. So we may have pulled almost every bank that bids in the Midwest plus a couple new ones today. So I'm very excited with the results. And that meant, of course, a lower true interest cost for the district. Our TIC, which is that true interest cost, which think about that APR aggregated interest rate, 3.97 to 4.15 representative from first place to last place today. So the winning bid came from Piper Sandler out of Minneapolis, Minnesota at a true interest cost of 3.9780%. The second place bid that we call the cover bid was from Huntington Securities out of Chicago, Illinois. And then all the way back to our last place bid that was R.C. List & Company, that is usually part of the Robert W. Baird selling syndicate, but pulled out to bid on their own today. And I will point out there were some very large selling syndicates. Robert W. Baird had over 36 banks. That's normally, I would say, 29 to 30 bidders. And they lost 2 who bid on their own today. And so you had a lot of interest in your bonds today. So that was very good news. Raymond James also had Morgan Stanley and Company had an 11-member selling syndicate as well. I think the larger syndicates are sort of indicative of a little bit of uncertainty in the market. There's a little thing happening in the Middle East that we may have heard about in the news that has created a little bit of instability in the markets. We saw some big upswings in interest rates, and then we saw a really good rebound yesterday. We got 10 basis points back yesterday, so excellent time to be in the market. I think that, like I said, those syndicates are just representative of them wanting to share the risk together. Pricing, most important part, right? The pricing, only 30 basis points on average over the AAA scale. And so your credit rating is a AA minus. So congratulations for being in that AA minus tier. That's indicative of the good work that the district does day in and day out. Kevin and the finance staff, direction of the board, being fiscally responsible and conservative in your spending and your finances has led to a very strong rating. These bonds will be paid for by the debt service levy. That's included in the fiscal 27 budget and is within, I think, the total interest today came in, I want to say $800,000 less than PFM's projections, and we got to put an extra $2,389,000 in the project fund based on the premium and the reduced underwriter's discount that was charged today. So with the $51 million of bonds, that's going to mean that the district has, if I can get to my right page, $52,589,539 to spend on its projects. And that comes in under budget, which is my favorite. So with that, I'm very pleased with how the sale went, and I would recommend that the board approve the winning bid from Piper Sandler at 3.9780%. and happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
I was gonna ask you if you were pleased with where we came in at, but you already stated that, so that was my only question.
Yes, very
So
pleased.
I'm happy for the good news.
Yeah, a year ago, our interest rates would have been 0.9% higher. So can't take credit for that, but excellent timing again. We took advantage of a really good market today.
What would that look like dollar-wise, do you know?
So the present value of 1 basis point, I can tell you that if I can get to my right page. The present value of 1 basis point is right around $50,000. So that would have been around $500,000, round numbers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can't really time the market, but we kind of did.
Couldn't have done it better. And a couple weeks ago, it would have been an extra, again, another $500,000, a couple weeks ago. So, yeah. And it would have been $5 million a year ago. Sorry, I said that wrong. $5 million
Oh,
a year
wow.
ago. Yeah, in total debt service over the 20-year term. So that's what I'm saying, like, excellent.
So we need to approve this now. Right?
The bid's locked in, so, yeah. Piper Sandler's ready to ticket and sell their customers, so, yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Lacey?
All right. Brett,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes,
Chad.
Yes. Get my little script out here. All right, so next up is a public hearing for fiscal year 2027 proposed budget. I call this public hearing to order. It is not 3 o'clock, it's 5:48 PM. I will now open the public hearing to receive comments on the fiscal year 2027 proposed budget. Board Secretary, have you received any written comments?
I have not.
Okay. Is there anyone present wishing to provide comment? All right, it doesn't look like we have any takers, so we'll close this public hearing at 5:48 PM. All right, on to letter C, adopt and certify fiscal year 2027 budget. Can I get a motion, please?
I make a motion that the board adopt and certify the fiscal year 2027 budget as proposed and set the district's composite tax rate no higher than 15.42355.
Second.
Thank you.
With your action tonight, this sets the maximum tax rate that the district can offer or levy. There may be some changes that we cannot control. That's through the Department of Management and other things that might affect this. But this will tentatively and effectively set the rate at the same rate as last year, being $15.42355.
Okay, any questions from the board? All right, Lacey?
Tracy,
Yes.
Bridget. Yes. Grant,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes,
Chad,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay, on to letter D, Transportation Facilities Project Guaranteed Maximum Price. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion the board approve the guaranteed maximum price for the construction-related activity for the transportation facilities project in the amount of $8,525,598.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Berger, do you have?
Just wanted to make sure I was available if there were any questions.
Okay. How does this maximum price compare to what we kind of originally budgeted?
Sure. So it is higher. Now, I think one of the key things, the project was, we did bid the project as a design bid build project back in September. And our average bids at that point were lower. They were about 5.8, 5.9 million, I believe, somewhere in there. I think one of the key things that I really want to call out here is that one of the key differences between the methodology that was used before and the methodology that we utilized here with the CMR method is that the design bid build is really sort of a snapshot in time. And it is an element where we don't necessarily assume all of the risk right on day one. A lot of times we end up in a situation where that risk shows itself as change orders and various other things throughout the course of the project. This locks us into a situation where, one, I do want to note the fact that the guaranteed maximum price is just that. It is a not to exceed that includes contingencies, some other allowances, whatnot. So that is a maximum fee that we would potentially see on the project. But it is also a fully informed project based off of the construction manager, subcontractors, and others being fully informed of sort of the risks that go into the project. I would consider it a solid current number based off of current conditions.
And some of the rise in costs had to do with just materials rising and where we're at in
Correct.
society.
Yeah, there are definitely some increases. Construction costs alone were somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15% more than what we would have seen from previous. Again, though, a big part of that is sort of the full transparency that we have with all of those costs that go with understanding what those inputs will be and that risk that we get with the CMR method.
So with this method, unless we want to change something or the conditions change, they get out there into the site and there's extra work that has to be done beyond
Correct.
what we expected, like this is the most it would cost us, right? Is that a fair way to state it?
That's a fair way to say it, unless something truly extreme would happen. There's a 2% contingency, so we have I believe it's about $120,000 that's built into the project for contingencies, plus about another 100 and I believe it's 80 some odd thousand for some allowances, specifically to take into account and to lock in pricing on the front side for, let's say we go and start excavating for foundations and we find that we have unsuitable soils. We already have costs built into the project. If we don't use those allowances and that contingency, those are dollars that are essentially returned back to the district from I say returned back, but those are dollars that are not allocated to the contractor. We essentially retain those funds.
So make sure that I'm understanding correctly and everyone listening, that those contingencies are included in that 8,000 or 8,000,005.
They are,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, all of those contingencies are in there.
Okay, thank you.
I like your number, Bridget.
Yeah, me too.
I wish.
Well, this is a great project. I mean, I hate to see the price go up, but understand the conditions that we're in right now. I mean, we don't have a choice, but it's been long awaited. And again, I want to thank administration for making this happen and getting rolling with it. So I hope the rest of the board votes for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Bridget? Yes. Grant?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Chad?
Yes,
Brett?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
motion carries. On to Food and Nutrition Services Bid Award, Small Equipment. Can I get a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
Take your pick.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Anybody else say?
Oh, I thought I heard, did you say? Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, Grant can have it.
Hearing things here. So this is for culinary equipment throughout the district, right? Is that,
This is, can openers.
large can openers then?
I would love to know about.
Really large.
Yes, Culinary Depot is the vendor of choice for the small equipment. Is that your question, Mr. Crabb?
Yeah, it just,
What is the
General.
coop?
It's a very high-powered food processing. I would love to have one, but as you can see, it's an investment.
yeah.
Great for commercial kitchens, school kitchens as well, so.
Aren't all
You're gonna block in.
You'll walk in.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's get two. Just kidding.
Okay, any other serious questions? All right, Lacey?
Grant,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Bridget.
Yes.
All right, letter F, Food and Nutrition Services Bid Award, Junior High and Runnels. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, any questions? Looks like some nice dishwashers.
Very nice.
You probably would want one of those
I also
also.
would like one of those.
All right,
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Chad,
yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
All right, letter G, public hearing for the calendar. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to set the public hearing for possible calendar change for April 23rd of 2026.
Second.
Okay. We've got a discussion item later, so unless you guys have a specific question about the hearing, we could probably move forward.
Lori,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad.
Yes. Okay, letter H. It's another public hearing. So it is, again, not 3, keep looking back up there, 5:58 PM. We'll now open the public hearing to receive comments on the elementary CMAR, construction manager at risk. Board Secretary, have you received any written comments?
I have not.
Okay. Is there anyone present wishing to provide comment? All right, we will, I will close this public hearing. It is still 5:58 PM. On to the next one. What's that? One more public hearing and we've got them all done. It is, it's the same time, but it is still 5:58 PM. I will now open the public hearing to receive comments on the junior high construction manager at risk. Board Secretary, have you received any written comments?
I have not.
Is anyone present wishing to provide comment? All right, public hearing is now closed. It is 5:59 PM. All right, moving on to letter J, award bid for junior high lighting improvements. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Nope.
Huh? What?
Want me to do it?
The recommendation is to reject all bids.
Well, I'll do that.
I guess you could approve the administration's recommendation.
I missed that, sorry. I'm going to retract my motion.
I'll move that we reject all bids.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Berger, do you want to just,
Any questions? I know it's not every night that we find ourselves rejecting bids. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that the situation here, we did go out, solicit bids competitively to replace lighting at the junior high school. The pricing we received back was such that we felt it was above and beyond what we had allocated for the project. So essentially, we're going to go back, take a look at the scope of the project, see if we can sort of revise a few things, and then we'll go back out and reevaluate that, whether it is with the same model of delivery, whether we publicly bid this, we use service contracts. We'll obviously make sure we're procuring appropriately, but we felt that it was higher than what we were comfortable with from a budgetary number.
Is this a summer project that we're trying to accomplish?
This is, yes, yes.
Are we
And
going to be able to fall in that timeline of when school gets out and if we go out for bid?
if we do, yes.
Okay.
Quite honestly, one of the things that we're looking at right now is actually working with some of our in-house staff to see if we can utilize some of our folks as well to help get sort of the high point elements
Sweat equity.
completed. Exactly,
Sweat equity.
exactly.
Okay.
Oh, JT.
Okay. Lacey?
Chad,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
All right, we're on to topics for discussion. First item is fiscal year end, June 30th, 2025 Auditor's Report. Mr. Bacam, are you kicking this off?
I am. Thank you, Board. Mia Fromelt is here with Bonsack and Fromelt LLP, our auditors for the year. This is for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2025. She's got a few short slides to go through. Keith, would you switch that over to the?
Good evening. As Kevin mentioned, I do have a summary presentation, but I'm happy to take any questions or that you might have in some of the details. How does this work? Okay. So first, oh my goodness. It's not, okay. Thank you. We do 3 audits each year. That has not changed since last year. We do a financial statement audit, which is an audit of your financial transactions and funds. We do an audit of the government auditing standards, which is an understanding of your internal controls and also compliance with laws and regulations. And we perform a federal single audit, which is an audit over federal grant expenditures each year. The district expended $4.9 million in federal awards for fiscal year '25. Of that amount, $3.2 million was expended in the child nutrition program, and that was the program that was tested for fiscal year '25. As part of the year-end audit, then, the deliverables that come out of those are the annual comprehensive financial report, which is the bound document and has all of your funds for the fiscal year. We also issue 2 letters, a board letter that talks about the significant estimates and includes management's representations to us as part of the audit. And we issue a double-sided page control deficiency letter, which are items that don't rise to a finding level to be included in your bound financial report, but they are observations and items that we do believe you need to be aware of. I just wanted to point out this year there was a new accounting standard. It was pretty significant. The new accounting standard changed how compensated absences are to be recorded by a government entity. And so that required a restatement to the 2024 equity. It required pretty intensive data gathering on sick leave, vacation leave, personal leave, and coming up with that estimate for '24 and for 2025. And if you're interested in that, there's a footnote in the bound document, note 16, that goes through what the changes were for that new accounting standard. But there were no issues in implementing that standard. Okay, and this is the crux of the presentation, which is a summary of the results. In the bound document, there is a summary page that goes through it's on page 123, but it's a summary of what I'm presenting to you tonight, and then followed by the details of the items that I'm presenting to you tonight. So first, for the financial statement audit, the audit result is that you have an unmodified opinion. So that's the clean opinion, a highest level of opinion an auditor can issue. And that tells you that the financial information that's in the bound document complies with accounting principles that are generally accepted in the United States. So that's a good report to have. In terms of the government auditing standards audit, where we understand internal controls, and then we also understand laws and regulations compliance, there are some findings that I'd like to discuss with you tonight. The first is over bank reconciliations. There's a material weakness over the bank reconciliations, and just to clarify, when we look at a deficiency, we have to rate it. It's either material, which is your highest level, if you will. If you were looking at a thermometer, you'd be in the red. You have what's then the next level is called the significant deficiency. That's like orange. And then you have control deficiency, which is going to be more like yellow. So that separate letter I referred to earlier is the control deficiencies. Tonight you have two pretty high level material weaknesses to report. This stems from bank reconciliations are not being timely prepared. So the June reconciliations for June 2025 were not final until the end of February 2022 and required some journal entries after the audit had begun. As a result, that does mean that that material weakness is going to be repeated in this fiscal year.
Can you repeat that? I think you said June 2025, not final until February 2022.
I'm sorry, 2026.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. The district is continuing to work through the bank reconciliation process. We, as of the end of field work, understood that some accounts are caught up through December of 2025, but other accounts are at August of 2025. So that continues to be a process that the business office is working through. The other material weakness is the adjustments for generally accepted accounting principles. When we come out to do the audit, the ideal is that your financial statements are final, the trial balance are final, you truly are doing an audit of those ending balances. But during that process, we identified some material items that needed to be posted to the fund information to be able to be in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles. And as a result of that, needed to report a material weakness because of the dollar values of the adjustments that were necessary. For compliance, there's a compliance finding over the 2024 single audit completion. So the federal government requires the single audit to be issued within 9 months of the fiscal year under audit. So the 2024 single audit was required to be filed by March 31 of 25. And that was filed actually in April of 25. So it requires a finding to be reported to a material noncompliance finding. I can tell you that that is going to go away for fiscal year 25's audit. The 2025 audit was filed prior to March 31, 26. So you should not have you will not have a finding for that for next year.
So we won't get a material noncompliance for 25 single audit completion.
Correct. Mm-hmm. In terms of auditing the federal single audit program, the child nutrition program, we obtain an understanding of internal controls, and we also test for compliance. And the compliance is really geared towards how the federal government wants certain things tested for that child nutrition program. I'm pleased to report tonight we have no findings, no matters to report over the child nutrition program. And then I mentioned that separate letter. We have some comments. It's a letter that has comments over payroll. So payroll is obviously a pretty significant process of the district. Right now, the controls rely to a high extent to the end of the process. And we would recommend that there be more preventative type controls that are done at the beginning of the process, preventing error, rather than focused on trying to find error once everything's been through and processed at that point. It just helps with making things a little bit smoother, and then would allow for would allow for more controls to be in place and not relying on one or two key controls that are what you're relying on right now. So we have some suggestions for that in that letter, and it really comes down to segregating access to the payroll master file, segregating that away from the payroll, the people that are processing your payroll, and separating that from someone that does not process payroll.
To clarify, so you suggest somebody separate inputs the information up front before it hands over to payroll, correct?
Yes.
That it has
Yes.
nothing to do with payroll?
With processing payroll. So the person processing payroll could not go in and change a rate or an address or that kind of thing.
Okay, but is completely separate at the
Yeah.
beginning?
Yes.
And it's done correctly instead of trying to find the errors later?
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
I understand, I'm just repeating it, so,
I'm going to interject just for a second. So this happens to be with our payroll administrator and our payroll specialist. From a system control standpoint, we can't isolate or restrict access to those employees to change those settings. So it's an inherent limitation on the system. The compensating control in place is that I review on a monthly basis those changes that may have occurred to those 3 employees. Seeing no reviews, I sign off on a sheet of paper, and that's the compensating control because of the inherent lack of controls from the system standpoint.
Isn't that a new system that we just got?
The system's been in place since 2014.
Okay, so we got another new system though, so it's not tied into payroll?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
No. We purchased a new, you came to us and asked us for a new system at one point. What was that for?
I'm not sure. We've rolled this into this new accounting system since 2014.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I got, thank you.
I'm happy to take any questions. It's quite a summary.
what do you suggest if the program doesn't allow for us to do it up front and separately? What else can we do differently?
I would suggest revisiting that.
Okay,
I would look to a different department to have the ability to make those edits, such as the Human Resources Department.
inputting,
And then I would suggest a much robust edit report review.
okay. I have more questions, but I was going to wait until you were done with your presentation.
I am done with my presentation, yes.
So on the GAAP dollar adjustments, how much are the dollar adjustments that are occurring?
Okay, so those would be on that separate letter, the more thicker stapled letter. The adjustments are attached to the back
Okay,
so that you can see what they
Point out.
pertain to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last year I asked you on the reconciliations if you felt last year forward we were going to get them caught up, but we're still behind. So are we going to be in the same situation this time for the audit next year?
I'd like to continue hearing from the auditor, please. Let her finish, thank you.
I don't know.
Because I thought last year,
Yeah.
I thought last year was the final, that we were going to be a material weakness, but we still are not caught up we're up to February of '26, or not, we're not there yet
In terms of caught up,
for the reconciliations.
as of March, you were not caught up.
How far behind are we as of March?
Last I had been told was some accounts are through December of '25, and the main account is through August of '25. That may have changed. Okay.
I don't want to hear this time next year that we're behind to August of '26 or December of '26.
Right.
Is all I'm saying. And, because it seems like we just keep pushing the can down the road, and I'm saying my piece, but I would like you not to have to give us some material weakness next year.
I would like the same thing.
Would you would any of the recommended preventive controls that you mentioned help prevent that? Or is it?
On the payroll side?
Separate?
No, I would say that's a separate
It's a
system, separate process. Yeah.
Is there anything else you recommend?
I do truly want the district to catch up on the bank reconciliations. Until that point occurs, and it's in our finding, there's transactions not being posted or corrections that need to be made that aren't timely identified for corrections. It just, without having cash reconciled, at that point, you really, it's hard to audit the rest of the information.
Everything you're looking at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Becombe, you said we're more caught up. Could you clarify, like, exactly where we are at today with reconciliation?
Certainly. We have 4 bank accounts with First Interstate Bank. 3 of the bank accounts are through February for reconciliation. The general operating account, the last account is through January of 2026. So by the time June comes along, we should be through May, and then June being reconciled by the end of July.
So do you think for next year's audit, she can look at it as on time on the reconciliations?
With bank recs done, that is critical to the posting of entries, as Mia had mentioned. That records our transactions within our books, and that certainly would take away the material weakness on the audit.
I think it should be our goal that it happens.
Absolutely.
And what's the biggest holdup, I guess, with getting these records? Is it staff capacity? Is it training? Is it the new software? Or what's?
Again, software back in 2014. We have started doing, about a year and a half ago, the reconciliations through the system. There's been a learning curve on that reconciliation process, learning how things come through the system, which is far more effective than doing it outside the system. Maybe not efficient enough right now, but we are gaining those efficiencies. We pulled in a third party to help that, to bring us back up to date. So that's where we sit today.
Okay.
Do we have the most functional system, or are there other systems or software out there available that you would make it easier for you, or that you would like to have?
There are definitely other systems out there. Are they more efficient or more functional? I can't answer that without knowing what those systems are.
Is there, maybe a different way to ask the question is there any reason why with the current system we have, we can't stay up to date going forward?
Having now the knowledge going back through, again, let me preface this by, audits are done after fiscal year ends are complete. So when we did the '24 audit, we started the bank reconciliation through the system around, I want to say it was February of 2025. So already beyond the fiscal year end date, then getting caught up in 25, not being complete until the February timeframe, or what was mentioned before. So now that we're more up to date through February for all the accounts except for one through January, we expect to have those bank reconciliations done in a more timely manner by the end of June.
Didn't we ask for an extension last year?
We asked for an extension of the audit report through March 31st, correct?
because we weren't reconciled at that point?
The reconciliation was done, we were working on the audit still.
Okay, so this isn't the first year that we haven't reconciled, this is our third year, right? Okay, so to answer Lori's question, I don't think we're gonna reconcile next year, because it seems to be a continuing problem, so I'd like to see figure out how we can
I'm
do
gonna
that.
be hopeful that it happens, because
Oh, I'm hopeful
he doesn't
too.
wanna
I just-
stand up here and go through this again.
I'm just reminding you that this is the third year, and,
No, I haven't forgot.
okay.
Could we get an update, could the board get an update, like where your progress is at? You're saying that you're gonna be more caught up by June, so maybe in July or August, could we get the update to where we're
Certainly.
at?
I can update where we're at after the monthly financial reports if you'd like me to. I don't know if there'll be progression by that point, but certainly give you an update on bank recs.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest if, in our monthly financial committee meetings, if we could get updates, we
Absolutely.
could disperse that to the board or ask at a meeting, but if we could get those monthly, that'd be awesome, just to see where we're at.
Certainly.
Other questions?
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mia.
All right, moving on to letter B, student-related fees. Can I get a motion? Or no, we don't have a motion, this is just information. Okay,
We're just talking.
all right, so some fee changes that you again, Mr. Pecom?
I don't have this up, but I'm going to go by memory. I think the only change we have is a student activity pass for the grade levels, and that's moving up $10 per grade level, I believe. And just a reiteration of our food sales, the meal costs aren't really complete until the state tells us what our numbers are. So those amounts might be changing once we get those numbers.
So that's why you've highlighted them.
Correct.
How does the student activity pass, why is that going up? What impact does that have for a raise? What would be the reason we'd want to raise those?
It's more in line with the CIML, and also the cost of officiating judges' events has gone up as well.
So are we raising the costs of all the admission?
I wish Mr. Campbell was here. I think we were at $9 before, maybe $9.50. It's $10 now through the Bound application, through the Bound app.
So I think, I guess what I got a problem with on this is we're trying to encourage our students to come to the activities, and it seems like we're making it harder. I mean, general public, if that's what the CIML decides to do for that, I mean, we don't really have a lot of control over that, right?
It's still our choice. I think we're just coming to become comparable with the other CIML.
I'd like to see us
Districts.
keep the student passes at the 40.
60.
It says 50.
Different levels, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I see that now, so I must need new glasses because I'm missing things today. But anyway, I'd like to see them keep it at 50 and then, or 40 and 60 for that. Just the less burden we can put on getting those passes purchased. I mean, that's supposed to help ahead of time to get them there. So, I mean, that's obviously one person's opinion, but I don't know, I don't know if that's really gonna make a big difference. How many activity passes do we get a year?
I would have to look that up, I'm sorry.
Okay.
These revenues go directly into the student activity fund that supports the general activities director's office.
No, I get that. But these, if you raise it, is there a potential that parents aren't gonna be able to afford it? I mean, if they got, when we talk about all the fees that I appreciate we keeping everything else out there. I mean, could that make or break someone buying a couple passes because they can't afford it because they've got multiple kids? I mean,
Maybe, since we're not voting on this tonight, you can have Jason send us what it covers and how many we have that actually purchase annually, or what the trend is annually.
Yep, we can get the purchasing. I don't know as far as covers, what the revenues pay for. Again, that goes to the general administration of the student activity funds, so support programs that may not have gate revenues, so to support those costs for those types of events as well.
Yep.
yeah, and then maybe like what the trend has been for the number of those passes, because aren't these purchased through Booster though?
No, these are not boosters.
These are not the
These
booster ones?
activities. This
These
covers
are all-
activities.
Okay. So at least, what's the number, what was purchased last year and then maybe the year before, just so we know if there's an uptick or
Yep.
is it?
I think
We
that would be
also
an
know
easy.
the last time the price was increased or whatever it was. Also, I would like to know when the last time we had an increase. Has there ever
Yes.
been one? That'd be
Get
great.
that information for you.
But we're not paying our officials through our student activity passes. That's, I mean, that's not what is making or breaking whether we pay our officials or not. I would rather keep our student activity passes at what they are. It keeps them at least involved in school activities and not elsewhere. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think we can get more information on
Sure.
what that money's used for and how much it is, and
Certainly.
that would be
Can we
helpful.
add to that if Jason comes to speak, the impact of the new legislation mandating that we accept cash payment at events as well?
Sure, if we have
If there's
Jason
any-
come, that would be good to
Yeah.
know. It's a little bit off topic, Bridget.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just thinking how, when you say the impact of accepting cash at the gates, I don't know how we'll develop something. We switched over to the bound application to accept those online tickets, kind of as a firm switch. So to find out who was doing cash prior to that, everybody was doing cash prior to that, I
Right.
think, except for the state student activity passes, but we'll try to develop something for you for impact.
I'll send him the question.
Okay, perfect.
That's all I had.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, on to letter C, enrollment projection report.
We have Gina Wallace from RSP here tonight to share our enrollment projection report.
Good evening, board. Give me 1 second to get this pulled up. Okay, I was looking for a full screen button, but we're good with this. All right, so my name is Jenna Wallace with RSP and Associates. I'm going to go into a pretty brief overview of that 5-year enrollment forecast that we put together for the district. And so a little bit about RSP. We are a firm based out of Kansas City, and we work solely with school districts providing enrollment projections and facility planning. We work a lot within the Des Moines Metro. Rob, if you remember our CEO, Rob Schwartz, he and I split different board meetings, and I would say this would be one of the weirder drives going from Kansas City to Des Moines, seeing as we went from a sunny 75 degrees to rainy 45. We were dropping about 10 degrees per hour, which it normally doesn't feel that way, so that was fun. But RSP has worked with you guys for quite some years, so providing enrollment projections, boundary work, facility site analysis, and so really just being that resource for data so that you guys have good decision-making processes. And so the report tonight, it's pretty comprehensive. You can see I've got 79 pages. I do not plan to speak to all 79 pages. And so I'm going to more so hit the high level. What are the key variables that lead into those final enrollment projections? The report's broken out into these 4 main parts. So a little bit about enrollment, a little bit about development, and then majority will spend on those projections and next steps. And so the executive summary here for the report, we have the district continuing to grow the next 5 years. Elementary grades bear the brunt of that growth. And so with in-migration at those grades as well as new houses being built, we have elementary growing by about 290 students. Middle school, junior high at a pretty similar growth rate, and then high school seeing more of a stabilization. We have some of our largest grades right now in the high school, so creating a bit of a limitation to see that consistent growth and overall stable in that 9th to 12th grade cohort. When we get to projections by building, we correlate with our capacity, and so in this case at a 5-year outlook, we're looking at potential overutilization at Clay and 4 Mile Elementary, but with the 2025 referendum in that potential new elementary school, a really great opportunity to address those challenges within this 5-year outlook. All right, so then getting into part 1 of the report, you have lots of maps in the report. And so this visual gives you your district boundary and city limits. We also have the current elementary attendance boundaries. And then a bit about the RSP model. And so what you can take from this visual is the RSP model is really based on geography. It's the marriage between student addresses and all of our different variables. And so we break down the district into 380, what we call planning areas, basically building blocks of the community. So we know how many houses have been built, what type of housing, what's the cost of the housing, number of bedrooms, and how do all those different variables mean an actual Southeast Polk student is in that house or not. That gives us a way to be very granular with knowing the future subdivision life cycle and what it means to new homes being built in the district. So just a very unique way to look at data and gives you a way to be very statistically accurate. If you're a math person and you want to dig into the model, we have this visual here. Really the past 2 slides, as well as this next slide, I think explain it a little bit more. All the variables that I'll speak to tonight, and even some that are in the appendix, all really go into, are they variables of enrollment loss or variables of enrollment growth? And so we have that up and down movement. Model reads all that information, pushing out that most likely forecast that you guys can use for decision planning. And so one of our key variables that we look at here is the county birth rate, and how does the birth rate correlate with kindergarten students. And so we have been seeing a decreasing birth rate. If you see anything on the news, that's about everywhere right now. Most counties in Iowa statewide, we're seeing that decreasing live birth rate. It's a demographic trend that we want to monitor. And the way to offset that is to increase your market share. And so right now we're at about 7 to 8% of Polk County live births enrolling in kindergarten. You can see that trend correlating with that smaller kindergarten class that came in this year. And so with that limitation, we would be wanting to try to get more of that in-migration and to increase that market share really to 8 to 9% to see that kindergarten stability. We look at your past enrollment by grade, and so we've had consistent growth the past 5 years. This has become a bit more stable and modest. So as we have grown, we have larger grades in the high school than what we've ever seen. And as we graduate those larger classes, we're not being backfilled in that same organic growth than what was experienced 5 to 8 years ago. Largest class right now is in that 12th grade, so 614 students. They're graduating, being replaced by 493. So there's that deficit that we have to overcome to see that district-wide growth. And so it's just one of those limitations of a bit more of a constrained growth model rather than a very expedited growth model. And so one of those key ways to offset that limitation is grade progression. And so that movement of, I'm a 6th grader and I move into 7th grade, does my class get bigger or smaller? The grade progression for your district is very positive. So that 3-year average at the bottom, most of this is within positive. So grades get larger as they work through the system. That really speaks to retention of students as well as that positive in-migration of new families moving in. And so this gives you really a way to offset the demographic limitations of that kindergarten class. And so when we compare that, really that whole theory together, this top graphic gives you a sense of kindergarten versus 12th grade. So years that you were growing at the greatest rate, kindergarten was much larger. Now we're looking at where consistently the next 5 years, 12th grade is larger than that kindergarten class. We do think kindergarten comes back up over 500 students, but not large enough to be 600 plus like what that 12th grade class is trending towards. So kind of just reiterating, that limitation continues, but the other trends offset that limitation. And another way to think about a way to offset that, this is that migration trend. So orange bars being new students in, green bars, I was a past student and I went private, parochial, out of state. And so we do see a net growth from this factor for the past 3 years. And this year we had the greatest net growth, really coming down to that out-migration decreased. So we retained more students from last year to this year than what we have seen in the past 2 years. In the model, we also account for that out-of-district, open enrolled in students, so residing maybe somewhere else in the metro and then open enrolling into the district. This has stayed pretty stable, slight increase between 23-24 to 24-25, but about 530 open enrolled in students, with DMPS being that greatest contributor of that student population. And then a new analysis that we've started adding into our Iowa School District reports is that ESAs, so the new funding from the state for students in the district that can tap into this funding to go to private or parochial enrollment. This program has been phased in over the last 3 years. So that growth each year really comes down to that new eligibility criteria. What we see with a lot of our districts is the majority of the students in these graphics were already private and parochial students, now just tapping into that funding. So definitely next year when we're at that same eligibility criteria for back-to-back years, will be really kind of, I think, a key takeaway of, does this program have a greater impact on the market or not so much? And then a couple of maps for the district. So this gives you a sense of the entire district's count change. Based on that neighborhood level, orange neighborhoods have increased the past 5 years, green neighborhoods have decreased. Now there is a density perspective, so some of the rural areas, the building blocks get a lot bigger because we're taking more of that surface area. But just giving you kind of a snapshot of where the neighborhoods are at in that subdivision life cycle. We also provide that same map zoomed in, closer to where we have our greatest pocket of student density. So you can see most of this is orange. We're going to seeing more students the past 5 years living in those new houses. Where we have the green is part of that subdivision life cycle. We might have some units aging in place, some students that graduate, mom and dad still live at home, that sort of thing. And every subdivision is at a different point. And then we correlate that with student heat density. So same district-wide visual where you can get a sense of the greater red is that greatest student density map. And same thing, zooming in to that pocket where we're here with our greatest concentration of students, really aligning with some multifamily housing like Ironwood and Spruce Point, where we have a lot of students in very close proximity to one another. And so that goes through part 1 of the report. So you can see most of these indications of growth there. Really the main limitation is that demographic shift of less births in the county, constraining that potential kindergarten class. Do you guys want, or any questions on any of these slides? You want me to keep going?
Is the expectation for that birth rate to continue to decline?
I would say most likely yes. What we're seeing really nationwide is a lower live birth rate. In some areas that we're seeing, it's been a bit more stable since COVID, but not in about any district has it come back up to some of that pre-COVID pandemic
There's an
birth
article in
rates.
today's paper, Chad, too, that covers that.
Yeah.
And the declining, yeah.
So any growth that we're having really is families moving in, right?
Mm-hmm, correct. And so part 2 of the report, looking at development and growth, this first graphic really correlates those 3 variables. And so green is your total population, so all ages. And so even though the birth rate is down, we're seeing more people living in the district. And that just goes into that full population perspective. The blue line is that building activity. And so we had a really spike in building activity with some new multifamily coming online, but overall, very positive, about 300 new units built per year, correlating with that bottom, the red line there, which is that enrollment change. So you can see that these are pretty linear. As we see steady population, building activity, we see that steady enrollment growth. In the model, we also have what we call a yield rate analysis, which is the number of students per 100 housing units. And so the orange bars is your typical single-family development. Green is your multifamily, so apartments, townhomes, mobile homes. We do tend to see more students from our single family with about 45 to 50 students per 100 single family home. Multifamily's lower, about 20. And you can also see with this graphic over time that it's decreased in both of the categories. This is also pretty common in high growth areas. As we continue to build out that inventory, there's a lag between new units online and new students in the district, and adding new houses that maybe not be student generating. So, new studios that have one bedroom and are thousands of dollars per month don't yield the same thing as a single-family residential that was built back in the 80s. So there's just a little bit of that data when we think about new growth in the district. And we break down that same student yield rate by each of our elementary boundaries. And so the orange here illustrating that those schools have a higher yield rate versus green is lower. So different things happening in each of our neighborhoods in the district. And this helps us get to, when we see new developments coming online, what type of housing, what's the price, where is it at, helps us have a more accurate projection. And then looking at your just total residential inventory. So you can see in that first graphic, this growth over time, and we're really in the decade that's set up to be the greatest built out decade in history. So we're already at 3,000 units, right on track to be at that 2000 to 2009, likely surpassing that by 2030. And then bottom graphic gives you that number of units in each of our elementary boundaries. Single family, pretty stable, about same number of units in each of those boundaries. Multifamily, a little bit different, where some boundaries have more of that multifamily development than others. The next couple of maps just give you that visual of the housing inventory. And so this is average year built. Red areas would be the newest in the district. And we correlate that with median home value. So really looking at where do these two overlap? Where do we have newer inventory that is more affordable for families? Those are going to be two indications of student generating in the future. And then we also have a more detailed analysis of the past 5 years of unit production. So you can see this kind of cluster effect of which developments have been the most active these past 5 years, with, when we finish the report in 2025, 171 units built. That's likely probably a little bit up from now, but just giving you a sense, we're on track to about that 200 to 300 units built per year. And so looking at the next piece is, what is that growth potential? And so this visual gives you a sense of green is areas that are current and active residential development. Purple and yellow is more of that 5 to 10 year residential projects. So this map is always changing, and so we try to meet with the cities and we get the best snapshot at the time, but we always encourage, keeping track of different planning commission meetings to get a sense of which neighborhoods are moving a little bit faster than maybe others. But you can see we have a lot in the queue to develop in both of our main cities, with really this kind of convergence in the central part of the district. Same thing, a zoomed in map here of really the majority of that activity, as well as the last 3 years of units. So you can see some of these have started, some of these are just getting going. Our job as the analyst is to figure out how many students are going to come from each one. And so all the areas on the map there correlate to about 7,700 potential housing units, with about 3,000 of those in those current and active stages. So those are the ones that we're spending the most time with. They're either, pushing dirt right now, or they're targeted to start within the next 5 years. Also on this table, you can see, are they multifamily, or are they single family? Kind of throwing it back to that yield rate, it has a different relationship with student generating based on the type of those units. And so out of that potential unit analysis, when we provide it by your elementary boundaries, you really see that Clay, 4 Mile are the elementary boundaries right now that bear the brunt of that growth. And so projections in those 2 schools being greater than others. And you can see more so a lack of growth in some of our other boundaries that are a bit tighter, and maybe they're built out, and so they don't have any potential growth right now. And this is those current elementary boundaries. And so last thing here, so just more so a regional project spotlight. So both of our main cities of Altoona and Pleasant Hill are continuing to grow and trying to make some different, infrastructure and road connectivity projects to continue to support that growth. So just kind of highlighting where we're at with different sewer extensions and road connectivity. Those are big drivers to seeing more of that yellow and purple areas on the map turn to green and continue to build out maybe in years 5 to 10. And so then last part of part 2, just kind of pushing out that bond referendum, knowing we have that new elementary school coming online in the future. And so what does that change a little bit? Those elementary boundaries. So how we divide up those potential units when we look at a new school coming online could help to kind of spread that growth and then balance buildings throughout the district. And so that goes through part 2 of the report. Same thing here, most of these indications of student growth, really just the limitation, that decreasing student yield rate, but very typical with high growth districts. Any questions on part 2? All right.
Just a quick,
Yeah.
obviously we'll figure out redistricting at a later time, but remind me, do you give us a preliminary redistricting idea? So then we can kind of, once we do whatever we decide to do on that.
We do. That's one of the services we provide. So we call it a boundary analysis, giving you guys, the board sets the framework and the criteria, and then our team creates some different scenarios of what some different boundaries could look like, using that 5-year forecast as the foundation, and then decisions back on you guys. It's more of a tag team of if there's maybe a committee involved or some different feedback to really land on that concept that has the best longevity and student experience. All right, so then part 3 for the student projections. All right, so this visual gives you that sense of enrollment, past enrollment, and then the next 5 years. I will say that we highlighted everything to match that current grade configuration to kind of show the trends from elementary, middle to junior high, just spread out over time. And so we have the district growing by about 8% by 2030-31. And so elementary, your pre-K 5, really having about that 8% growth, so increasing by about 290 students. Middle school, junior high, pretty similar at about a 15% growth rate. Both of those increasing, really coming down to the grades that are moving in and having stability right now in grades 2 to 5th grade. So as they cohort forward, stability at the middle and junior high level. High school, you can see where we kind of go up and down a little bit. Some years it gets a little bit smaller, coming down to what's that 12th grade class graduating and what's the 9th grade class coming in at. So by 2030-31, looking at high school, about 20 students larger than what it is right now. And so then the next thing we provide, skip past this slide, is those projections by building. And so this gives you a sense of each of your buildings in the district, what they have been trending the past 4 years, and then projected to be the next 5 years. And so there's a lot of information on this slide. You have your buildings, that operational capacity that's provided by the district, and then enrollment, really 2 different ways. The green middle font is the reside enrollment, so the number of students in each boundary. The bottom, attend, that's your most important number, and that's the number of students projected to attend the building. Because there is some of that intra-district movement of some programming that switches around the students. And so attend, we start with reside for statistical reasons, but then attend comes in how many students per building. The shading here illustrates where it's orange is where you're over capacity. So you can see starting next year, Clay Elementary surpassing that 700 student mark, trending upwards to over 800, that building seeing that capacity overutilization. 4 Mile, similar where they're seeing about a 17% growth in that boundary over the next 5 years. Now they start a lot lower than Clay, so it's a similar ramp up, getting over capacity by 2030, 31. The green illustrates where we have capacity. So we're below 70% utilization, and there could be some potential to increase some enrollment at other buildings to address those challenges. But we also know that we have the new elementary school coming online in the future that could solve challenges at Clay and 4 Mile. The bottom part of the table, same thing for your secondary facilities. And so in this case, we're not seeing any overcapacity challenges at each of our levels. Junior high, a little bit lower, but that's okay. Just good accommodation for growth in the secondary buildings.
Do you know how close we are on capacity for the middle buildings?
They're within, the middle school would be within 70 to 100%, but we could do that math of what that would be looking like. And then the junior high would be below 70%. And so then the last thing we provide is your total projections by grade. And so this is really helpful for thinking about like staffing and programming and just giving you a sense of all students in the district, what are our cohorts looking forward. We're looking at about a 1.5% to 2% growth annually the next 5 years. And so by 2030, 31, we're looking at about every class between 550 and 600 students. I would point out that this kindergarten class coming above 500 is pretty critical to the projection. And so we're basing that off of our different housing demographics, the new units coming in, but we have that very real limitation with live birth rates. And so thinking of if you guys have already done kindergarten roundup or you're getting there, thinking about that, as that number comes in, how well does it track with the projection? And so that goes through really part 3, kind of your main takeaways here, growth at every level, capacity challenges, most apparent at the elementary level at Clay and 4 Mile. And so we'll just leave you here with some of these next steps. And so we always encourage that annual review of enrollment, especially as we start getting closer to that new elementary school boundary, getting a better sense of next year or the year after, what are those new developments yielding? And then looking at, as you think about facility planning, of maybe massaging where that growth density is in the district, and then providing longevity to those elementary boundaries. And then always communication with the public, so trying to really create this report that's user-friendly and that we can use it for the foundation of the data that it is. And so, what other questions do you guys have? I'll try to answer them. If I can't, I'll note them down and bring them back to my team.
Questions? I think this is really great information to have And it looks fairly positive, right? It's not like an extreme growth, it's not declining, it's kind of a slow and steady. And it kind of emphasizes to me that, building this new elementary is really the right move, and it's going to fit right, it should fit right in that timeline of we're pushing over capacity, here's the new building that we can, the biggest challenge is just going to be, figuring out where the lines are that we need to draw, but.
I have a question, and that is, with your information that you've gathered from the cities, is all the announced developments that are out there planned right now? Or do you have some that have not been announced yet that are planned into this report? So if we have 500 homes, single-family coming online 5 years from now, or they've disclosed that to you, or what they know?
They disclose what they know at the time of the meeting.
Okay,
So
so
those do change.
What was the most recent update for developments that you have in this report?
So we met with the cities in December, I believe, and when we toured the district, is in December.
So anything after December that was disclosed, that is not included in this report?
We also have that, like the yellow and the purple, which is that 5 to 10 year potential. What we see in a lot of cases is the city may not be able to disclose, it's this development, it's this number of units, but that's an area for potential. And so that's where we get that 5 to 10 year growth. But it isn't comprehensive, as you have new developers coming in all the time. And so it's a good snapshot for December, but we do encourage kind of keeping up to date with those city meetings.
Appreciate the information.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. If you guys have any other questions, we're here to help.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, letter D, construction project updates.
I will keep this relatively brief. I apologize that I didn't prepare a slide deck or anything, but I think we've had a couple of conversations recently. I promise that I'll have something pretty to look at next time. But I did want to provide a little bit of an update on where we're at, starting with referendum projects, and then work a little bit into some of those summer projects that we just most recently talked about. Couple of ongoing things, the baseball, softball field improvements that have been taking place. Hopefully everybody had a chance to kind of drive by and see that we're literally in the home stretch there. We have substantially completed that project. The field is available for use by students. The only thing we're waiting for is a little break in weather so that we can get the scoreboards up. But other than that, a little bit of fencing, some things like that. But other than that, the contractor did a nice job of pushing there to the end and putting together a nice product. We did punch lists with the project last week, very few items, and the contractor's been extremely responsive to get those taken care of. So kids will be out there and it will be ready for use for both baseball and softball. Transportation facility, you've obviously approved the GMP on that. Here this evening, the contractor, we have been talking schedule. We anticipate we'll probably start seeing shovels turning here at the end of the month, early part of next month. Junior high, the secure entry project, which was one of the bond referendum projects, that is underway. We've had a couple of meetings with our design team partners and Mr. Daly and some of the other building leadership at the junior high, sort of identifying where some of the guardrails are for that particular project. So they are actively working on that, actually planning on meeting with them next week to start looking at some conceptual design ideas. So we'll be able to hopefully have some things to put in front of you, some visuals to put in front of you here shortly. But that one's moving forward well. The new elementary school also is moving along that particular project. I know, thank you to those of you on the board who are participating in our elementary school committee. We've had 2 of 4 planned elementary committee meetings. I think they have gone well. They've been led by our design team partners at DLR. And I think we're getting some really nice feedback from community members, kind of a wide range of stakeholders on exactly what an elementary school can be in Southeast Polk, what it should be, and what we need for the future. We will be doing tours of some elementary schools all the way from Boone down to Urbandale and into Johnston next Tuesday for those members that are going to be able to participate. Still finalizing a few things for site selection there, which is, I think, extremely relevant in light of the conversation that was just led by RSP. Same thing, conceptual design underway, moving along well, and getting some good feedback. Playground improvements, which is the last of the referendum projects, kind of a similar state. We have a couple of committee meetings that have been scheduled. We've had one that was very well attended. Had a lot of building leader involvement, a lot of parent involvement in those sessions, or in that session so far. That was led by our partners with Newman Monson. We're meeting with building leaders right now, working through sort of our phase one this year projects as we get ready to then be prepared for sort of that bigger grand element that each elementary school will receive next year. From there, just really briefly jumping back down into some of those projects that we discussed last time in terms of summer projects. Safety, security projects are moving forward for the window films. We are in permit review for the Empower You Life Skills Lab that's located here in this building. I think we'll have a nice project. We're going to meet with some parents next week to make sure that we also have some parent and student input on that particular project. But that's moving forward. We're actually already out doing some bidding on that. Same with all of our paving projects. We have contractors actively looking at those and getting us numbers for a lot of those projects. Finishes, window blinds at the middle school, that is bid. We're just waiting for school to be out so we can get that taken care of, as well as some painting projects that we've got bids. So other than that, sort of the last batch would be some improvements on building envelopes, things to keep the weather out. We have 3 of those projects that are bid, contractors that we're working through contracting vehicles with them right now, and we'll have them ready to go just as soon as the kids are out. So that's sort of the quick state of the union. Is there anything that I might be able to answer for anyone or any concerns at this point?
I just have a statement. This would be a good night to go through all the buildings and see if we have any leaky roofs.
We do. We
Okay.
do.
I feel like it's coming down pretty good.
It is. It is.
Baseball field looks nice. I like the colors. It turned out really well.
It did. It turned out well. It'll be it's going to be a neat place to watch a game.
When I came in, I'm like, something's missing.
Those rolls.
Big rolls.
The big
Oh,
rolls,
yeah.
exactly. And we will, it will not stay that muddy brown. We'll have a lot of sod and grass seed going down, so that'll get cleaned up here just as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right, last but not least, letter E, calendar, Wednesday update. Dr. Lupnick, you're going to dazzle us here with the presentation.
Let's go.
Keith, did you kick me out before?
Just all out.
Didn't realize you're connected. I'm like, what's going on? All right, that'll work. All right, good evening. Tonight, I'd like to spend a few minutes discussing a possible adjustment to our Wednesday schedule beginning in the 26-27 school year. This is an informational item tonight. You as a board would not take any action until after a public hearing later this month. This allows time to continue to gather feedback before any decisions are made. So currently, our Wednesday schedules operate differently between elementary and secondary schools. Secondary students have a 2-hour late start, while elementary students are dismissed 2 hours early. Both schedules were designed to provide time for professional development and collaboration among staff, which remains very important to our instructional work. You have this as a written paper at your spot too, if you didn't see that. Your proposal is to move to a consistent K-12 2-hour late start every Wednesday. This would allow all schools to operate on the same schedule while maintaining the collaboration and professional learning time for teachers. There are several reasons that this change could be beneficial. It simplifies the schedule for families. It addresses transportation challenges that we currently experience on Wednesdays, particularly at the middle school. It creates stronger opportunities for professional learning and collaboration among staff across all grade levels. And it improves our flexibility when dealing with inclement weather situations, particularly during the winter. When this schedule was created years ago, the district didn't have the capacity to be able to cover all buildings at the same time, and today our teaching and learning department is strong and does have that capacity. As with any change, we all recognize that there may be concerns, especially related to childcare and, in this case, before school supervision. Ultimately, any calendar change is the responsibility of the board, as outlined by policy. And I know that you as a board know how essential it is to have stakeholder feedback in order to make informed decisions related to that policy. So speaking of feedback, communication to stakeholders about this proposed change included a survey link for feedback, and to date, there have been 1,208 responses. The next 3 slides will give you an idea of what that feedback looks like. This first one describes level of support for the change, and you can see the 48% pro, 43.5% con, and 8.4% no opinion or neutral. The second slide shows you how this would affect the household. 29.4% say positively, 37.2% say negatively, and 33.5% say they're not affected by the change. And then finally, a look at who is responding, and you can see that the top responders are elementary parents and our staff, and that also could be pretty predicted, since those are the ones that would be probably the most affected by the proposed change. So a few common questions from the feedback are outlined here because, as you know, the people who filled out that survey could also give us some narrative responses as well. The first one, I would say the big obstacle there is our strong activities program. What would our 7 through 12 students do for 2 hours, since most of our coaches, directors, and sponsors would be engaged in professional development? So there's a supervision issue there, and we know, as referenced tonight, we have a very high percentage of kids in activities, and that correlates to our high student engagement numbers, and I don't think anybody wants to put that at any risk. The second one there, dealing with full days, for the 26-27 calendar that you approved last fall, we have 4 full days of professional development throughout the year in that calendar, and then 36 Wednesdays that are the equivalent of 10 more full days. So inserting them in the calendar could make things disjointed, kind of start and stop, or could stretch the calendar into June. So those are a couple of the factors with that. That's not been something that people have supported in the past. On top of this, I would say that I think this is a big model change that probably requires quite a bit more discussion and planning of how it would change how teaching and learning would support those days. As far as breakfast is concerned, we currently provide breakfast for our 6th through 12th grade students on Wednesdays, and we would definitely provide breakfast for elementary students in this scenario. We probably would look at the delivery mode of how we do this, possibly changing to maybe a grab-and-go option or whatever the food services department could do to speed that along and make it more available for all students. Another question has been, how about Monday or Friday instead of Wednesday? I don't think there's anything sacred about Wednesday. I wasn't here when that originated, but I think that's probably worthy of further discussion. And then not written on here is just another potential just thing to think about. If, as a board, you'd like to dig deeper into options, knowing that we're late in the year now, one other thing you could consider is moving the start time of the middle school back on Wednesdays for next year to give the buses a chance to get there on time, and then potentially putting together a committee to study this issue more and bring a recommendation at some point in the fall or whenever the board desired. What I'm talking about there is currently our middle school starts at 9:25. Our last buses get there at 9:40. The middle school has adjusted what they do, and they have a soft start with MTSS and Rams time at the beginning of the day, so kids are not missing class, but not all students are there when we technically say that we start at 9:25. Buses are there by 9:40 most days, unless there's some sort of unforeseen thing, I guess. So if you move the middle school start time back to 9:40 on Wednesdays next year, we would still meet our required minutes according to the calendar for the district. There's enough buffer time in there if that building would still have enough minutes that would not change the calendar as it was put together and as you approved. So that's just another thing to think about. So the goal tonight is simply to share your proposal, and as a board tonight, you did set a public hearing for April 23rd. This allows the community more time for feedback before any possible action would be taken regarding the 26-27 academic calendar.
I have a question. One question is, can we study the impact of cost savings regarding transportation, et cetera? Are we going to benefit from any costs, say recoup some costs?
Sure, I can put Dave Kretz and his team on that.
Okay.
A question as well, if, sorry.
Go.
If the move, with that alternative proposal that you just mentioned at the end to move the middle school start time, would the end time still remain the same?
Would remain the same,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
So, anyone else want to jump in right now? But I think that just to back up a little bit, I think the main driver for this, no pun intended, is transportation.
Sure.
We have issues that you mentioned with the middle school, so that provides a sense of urgency. Like we need to solve that in one way or another. I think there are a lot of other good reasons for, being more consistent. Like you've mentioned, the collaboration that could happen across grades. I saw some of the feedback, like administrative assistants, tag teachers. You think about the transition from 5th to 6th grade, there could be a lot more collaboration opportunities there. But as you showed with the survey results, it's very mixed, and it feels to me like while it might be better for some, it might be worse for others. It's very murky as to whether this is really the best option. And sometimes it's like they've already adjusted to what we have right now. Like everybody's used to that. So if we were to make a change, to me it feels like we should be pretty certain that it's going to be a net benefit to the district, to the majority. And it's kind of hard to see that in the feedback we've received so far. So I'll just throw out, my opinion would be if there's a way to solve the transportation issue and then set this up to be something that we study, get more feedback and say what really is the best, now that we have capacity to cover professional development all the way across, K through 12, what is really the best schedule to meet the requirements, meet the needs of the teachers, be able to gather more feedback from the community and staff. Because right now it feels, I thought when we put this out originally, that we'd see something that was more clear, positive or negative, and it feels like it's kind of right down the middle. So that's my 2 cents, if we wanted to take the transportation recommendation.
I was gonna say, hasn't there already been a transportation study that recommended we have to change? I believe there was a study that says
Yes.
we've got to do something
Yes.
different with our transportation and the schedules. So, I think that's been out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
and
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do agree with Chad. I was with him kind of on I was thinking we were going to see different results, and yeah, the results were obviously different than I thought. So I guess I'll just be a little more forward. I know that's going to sound funny for people.
No one's going to expect that.
Yeah, nobody's going to expect that, but that's okay. I would probably recommend not doing any changes for next year. If we can, do the busing. The only issue that I want to make sure that we don't get ourselves into is, once we get the new school on track, we're going to have to change some transportation stuff there anyway. So that seems to be professional development. I know we've got some room to move on hours there. So maybe it's just send this back to administration to kind of look at the options, because there has been several options. You've mentioned some reasons why not that we can't, but maybe beneficial for the district, because I know we do a little more professional development than what the state requires, correct? Our hours are higher.
Sure, yeah. And
Yeah.
there's-
So, I mean, is that worth, do we want to reduce those hours? I think they're important, so that's something that we got to, maybe look at. So I liked the survey because it definitely, I think it's given us maybe not what we necessarily hoped for. I like the consistency of just doing either an early out or late start. I don't like the way the Wednesdays are, so but I'm open for other, and I think maybe if we do other polls to see what do the families want, what do the teachers want, and then what does administration, what can we do, so we don't lose the integrity of what we've got.
Sure. Yeah, I would say, I'd hate to see us go backwards on professional development. It's something that sets us apart. It's something that draws interest and brings talented teachers here. So I'd want to think really hard before we went backwards in any way, but.
Yeah,
but
no, and
certainly,
I
yep.
agree. As long as we're utilizing that time best for the teachers and
Yep.
stuff, I think it's important to do that. And,
Totally agree.
But I think it's important to hear, we got to look at what the parents want to. I'll probably get beat up for this, but it's not always what the staff wants or administration. We do have to look out for what the parents, and right now, one of the reasons I wasn't for this change was because if you have multiple kids, you really can't work on Wednesdays because you're transporting kids to school, or you're waiting for them to get on or off a bus, however you choose to get your kids to school. And it seems like they're elementary's this time, and then middle school, and then high school, so it's like that whole day, and then, oops, now I got to go back and get them, or I got to wait for them to get on the bus, depending on how old they are. So I guess I would like to see something change, and it's not just for transportation. That is a big factor, but what can we do all around? So I guess I'll put that as that, let's not do anything for next year. I would suggest maybe canceling the public hearing, and then just do some more polls, find out have administration, maybe it's a parent group that comes together. You guys can, if you think it's worth even moving forward on anymore.
I have one thing to say. Imagine that. No matter what you do or what decision that you make, you are never going to make 50% of the district staff and parents happy. So you need to, if you need to study more, that's fine, but you can't go around and expect you're going to get 100% support or 70 or 80% report for something. So you need to, as a board, make a decision, study it as much as you need to study it, and then make the call. But that's part of what we do, is making hard decisions for the best interest of the district and the students and the staff. It's not always going to be popular, but sometimes it needs to be done. That's why I point out to you, I think this has been a transportation study priority for a long time, or not a long time, but for a while. Anyway, I'm not opposed to it or in favor of it one way or the other, but backing down because you don't have 50% support one way or the other isn't the reason to back down. You can't satisfy everybody, and you need to remember that when we make hard decisions. That's all I want to say.
Well, I don't think it's backing down. I think it's just re-looking at the situation, because that poll made a big difference. As a board member, it's sure easier for me to look at an option if we give them multiple options. We've only thrown one option out there right now, and I think the feedback is definitely showing what the teachers and community are looking at. I just did a 6-7, but it's 50-50. But if you throw out, let's say you throw out early outs, you throw out once a month, not that they have to happen, but for a board member, if it comes back and they said it was 70-30, that's a hell of a lot easier for me to make a decision on that than 50-50. And I get it, you're not going to make everybody happy, but I'd rather make majority happy if it's not the right move for some of these
I mean, in
folks.
some of that survey, you do have a majority. You have 10% more in favor than not in favor. But no matter what you present to them, there's going to be some more positive than others. But it's not going to be more than 50-50, because you've got elementary, you've got high school. They're all on a different schedule.
Without
So,
getting directly, but
I just want to point out, and it doesn't matter to me which way we go. It's just, yes, do a study, do another study, but you're not going to ever get 80%, 70%, or 100% approval. It's a hard thing to make a decision on.
What stood out to me in the data that I reviewed in the surveys, that is kind of guiding where I'm at with this, is the concern about the prime window for learning for different age groups. That really struck me. There were a lot of elementary teachers who provided feedback on that, and I trust their opinions on that. And so I also don't like it. I know it would be advantageous for a lot of families, but then it would put but they're used to working in the current system. It would turn things upside down for other families and maybe expose some inequities that we don't see right now. I think we need to keep that in mind. But for me, the main driver for decision-making, and this has come into play with past decisions, is that student learning. How would it impact our younger learners and their scores if they're not there in the earlier part of the morning, when their attention level, their engagement, their potential for learning and retaining information is higher.
yeah, and then to add to that, with the new school, obviously that's going to put an impact on things. Whether we want to switch hours for high school, middle school, and elementary. And then the redistricting. I think the redistricting is something that I didn't even think of at the time. And you go and make a change now, and then you redistrict, and then you're going to end up throwing another, because now you're going to have this, it's going to change transportation again. It's going to change.
For sure.
It's going to change everything. So I would, again, we can do what we want, but I don't think next school year is a good time to change. I think, plus with the new superintendent coming on board, it'll give him time to kind of see how we actually work, and new administration that's coming on with him as well. Give him more time and then whether we do polls or not, I guess.
Regardless of whether we do something now, or we wait, or we go morning or night, or whatever we do, something has to be done about the middle school and late start on Wednesday. It is not fair for some kids to be there at 9:15 and other kids rolling in at 10 o'clock because of transportation issues. But that's simply not fair. So we got to make it equitable So some adjustment on that Wednesday, whether you move back the start time or something, that's one thing that has to be looked at regardless of the other pieces of this puzzle.
And one thing that you said too, as one of our options, and I know that all of us have received emails from the teachers as well, is about, you brought it up tonight too, is about it not having to be a Wednesday. I know there was a teacher who had suggested a Monday as well. And so, like, to decide what we're doing on the 23rd to me seems very, very premature. And the reason why I say that is because say we do choose to move all the students to a late start. Okay, well, now, is that going to be Wednesday? Is that going to be Monday? Are there reasons for it? And that's, to me, with everything up in the air, 2 weeks from now is a short time to decide that. It's just, for me, there's too many moving parts, too many things to take into consideration to have board action in 2 weeks on this. But I completely agree with Tracy, as far as students showing up late after the day starts. That absolutely has to be taken care of before the next school year.
It's not in their control, but they're feeling the heat of it, and it's not in their control because the bus was late because they had to run a route. That's not fair to them. Just a little history, the late start or the early out has been something that this district has done clear back in the 70s. When I was a little girl in second grade, riding the bus to Delaware, we had late start. So that's how long we've been doing it. And it was just the Wednesday. That was just whatever superintendent was back in 1972, that was the decision then. So.
Yeah, and I think with the transportation thing, it's not, we know the majority of it's the middle school, but there's little hot spots all over the district that we need to, and one of it's lack of drivers. So, I mean, we can't go and sit here and say that everything's perfect in transportation. Things happen, but we need to get more drivers. So if there's anybody that wants to come to work that's listening, that's part of the issues, so.
I know it.
So maybe, I don't know if this is,
Yeah, there's just too many potential good options, I feel like, to pigeonhole on this specific one and vote on it here soon.
We have a lot of different options, and we got a lot of different changes with the new superintendent coming on board, and we have a new building coming on board, and we have redistricting coming on board. Plus, we don't want to throw a model in and then a year and a half change it, and then all of our families going through all of that again. And I think we need to pump the brake here a little bit. Except for fixing Wednesday at the middle school.
Yeah, I think I think we all agree that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like, whatever we can do, whatever's in our power to get kids to school on time is what we need to do. But beyond that, it seems like we have somewhat of a consensus here that what we have right now is a proposal is something that we probably want to pause on and do a little bit more thought, research, let the new administration come into and provide their ideas, and then figure out what fits the district best, because there are so many different possibilities. You said, Grant, that I think we want to evaluate more than just this one, as long as we can take the heat off of the transportation issue and get kids to school.
I mean, there's a lot of good reasons why doing this, but I think we need to think it out a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all been done in good faith, 100%. I agree with, Bridget, with the feedback we've gotten. I've taken in that our elementary age students do learn better in the morning. There's good studies to back that up. And so changing that, this close, especially in the next school year, so not super excited about it.
I'm totally off the topic, but I'm going to interject it anyway.
well, can we finish this one real quick, or that ties into it?
Well, this goes into it. Boundary
Oh.
adjustments should happen first of everything. So we should do that as soon as we possibly can, even before the new elementary comes online. That's all.
So,
Agree? Yep.
so do we, Anybody for sending this back to administration to have them, whether they do more polls, different options, scrap it until Dirk's in Florida, or put this on
Do we need
the
to
new
then
guy.
track the public hearing then?
Well, we
No,
would
you
just-
you can just
Procedurally.
table this for now. We can just pull that from the agenda.
Okay.
We don't need to officially.
Yeah,
to
I'll
cancel it or
double
anything.
check, but yeah, I don't
Well,
think so.
do we want, because it says possible board action, would it be something we would still want to have a public hearing to give anybody who want to speak a chance to provide input and just not take any action, or?
Well, maybe I would say let's take it back to administration and let them kind of hash it out as they, I think you heard, we want some kind of change, but when is that change going to be? And how's it going to look a little deeper? I didn't think it would turn in, I mean, it's a good thing, but I didn't think it would turn into amorphous, kind of what it is. And then when you sit back and look at it, all the things that are going to be coming in the future, whether it's a year down or 2 years down, is going to have an impact. And Tracy's right, we don't want to keep changing and changing and changing, so.
Yeah, Kelly, you bring up a good point. Regardless, we'll need to communicate this out so people understand what's happening here. Just to also maybe take some of the anxiety away as well.
Especially like with the kindergarten and all of the enrollment and things like that coming up soon.
Okay.
Well, thanks for your presentation and
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks
Thank
to everybody that submitted to the survey too. Pro, con, don't care. All the feedback was really good for us.
Motion to adjourn?
second, Tracy can have it.
Tracy?